I married Chris on November 15th, 2008. I always thought that that would be the happiest day of my life, but I was wrong. In September of 2009, we found out that we were going to have a baby. We could not have been more excited, but there were complications from the very beginning. The doctor put me on bed rest, and there was a discussion about possible miscarriage. But there was no miscarriage, and in fact we learned soon enough that we were going to have a baby girl. We also learned that she wasn't growing quite at the pace that she should. She was small, and she weighed very little. It wasn't just her growth rate that was a concern. The doctors told me I had preeclampsia, high blood pressure during pregnancy. I was admitted into the hospital for bed rest again. It was only 3 days after being admitted into the hospital that my blood pressure rose to a dangerously high level. The doctor recommended performing an emergency C-section that very night. My little girl was going to be here 10 weeks early. Abigail was born April 9th, 2010. She weighed 2 pounds, 5 ounces, and was 13.5 inches long. She was in respiratory distress immediately following the delivery. She was on a ventilator, a feeding tube. She had a PICC line, an oxygen saturation monitor, an IV pump, an electrocardiogram, and blood pressure monitor. We couldn't touch or hold her right away, as she lived in an isolette in the NICU. It was necessary because she was unable to regulate her own body temperature. We practically lived at the hospital, and we watched every day as they weighed her and they measured her, and she was fed through the feeding tube. They told us that she had a PDA, a congenital heart disorder, and an IVH, which is bleeding in her brain. Although we were very scared, we knew from the beginning she was a fighter, and slowly she began to get better, against all odds. The doctors told us her PDA was closing, and the bleeding in her brain was resolving itself. There was progress every day. Next, she needed to learn how to eat from a bottle. After she did that, the feeding tube was removed. The final step was the car seat test. The doctors needed to know that she could make the car ride home without her heart rate dropping. Finally, after 52 days in the NICU, our little Abigail was allowed to come home with us. This was the happiest day of my life. We just celebrated Abigail's 3rd birthday this year, and while she'll probably always be on the small side, she's healthy, and that makes us happy. Our little miracle.